Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the Remesh and when to use it for sculpting for 3D printing. So let's do New File General and let's just save it as. We'll just call it Remesh. And for the Remesh, we are going to use simple objects. So let's go ahead and flip Suzanne into sculpt mode just how she is. So let's go to Control Tab down and we are in sculpt mode. Go ahead and turn on your matte caps if you want. So we have the remesh option right up here. There's a little drop down. You can also get to it over here with this little triangle and do remesh if you just want to have it open at all times. But I'm just going to use this one up here today. And it really helps when you just want to kind of skin an object, I think would be the best way to explain it. So let's go into X-ray view, or you can just do Alt-Z. And now you're in see-through mode here, or you could be in X-ray mode, whichever one you want. Actually, I'm just going to stay in object. So notice here with Suzanne's eyes, they're actually two different objects. There's the eyes and then Suzanne's actual head. So notice it's kind of hard to see, but you can see it looks like an umbrella behind Suzanne's or inside of Suzanne's head here are the little shells for the eyes. So watch what happens when we add the remesh to this simple or basic model. So if we click on the remesh, the smaller the voxel size, the longer it will take to remesh it. So let's just crank it up, maybe something a little bit bigger, like a 0.5. And we don't need to make it adaptive. You can leave fixed poles on, and we don't need smooth normals. That's mainly just for rendering, and it's not really going to pertain to us that much because we're doing hard surface 3D printable objects. But you can preserve the volume, so let's just leave that checked. And you can also, if you had painting on here, you could preserve that. You could also preserve your facets. But enough of that. Let's just go ahead and click remesh and watch what happens to the eyes here. So remesh, bloop. Notice the inside of those eyes have gone away, and essentially we have kind of like a new skin that has appeared on Suzanne here. I'm just going to do Alt-Z to kind of bring back our full view. But notice it's got like this kind of jaggedy look, and those are the voxels. So if you turn on your wireframe, you can see all these little 0.5 voxels that have created a new skin around Suzanne. And what's cool is, if you just want to quickly add shapes together, you can use this technique to, add things with the remesh. It is a very destructive modeling tool, so we probably won't use it very often unless for very specific cases, but I just want you to be aware that it is here and that you can use it if you ever need to. But again, it is very destructive, so I want you to stay good habit with your multi-res modifier. So a few things to note with remesh is that you can't use it with dynamic topology and you can't use it with a multi-res. So say if we had this subdivided and we tried to go up here and remesh, notice it's grayed out. And if we click it, it says, error disabled because of the multi-res. So, you have to keep, this is mainly for like basic objects. Like say if we went back to object mode and we wanted to add like a hat for Suzanne, then we could do Shift A and do maybe like a cube, maybe something around like 20 millimeters. So there's a nice huge cube there. And we can hit G and Z and just bring it up to the top of her head. And now if we do Control Tab down and bring that cube into sculpt mode, notice, from the wireframe, it's just very, there's only 4 faces. So it's going to be kind of hard to sculpt that. But what you could easily do is just say remesh. Notice we don't have dynamic topology. We don't have a modifier. So we can just hit remesh. And I'm going to match the voxel size to Suzanne. So you can just do 0.5. And then watch our box over here. So we'll just do remesh. And now our voxel size matches Suzanne. And we can, hold shift and do some cool sculpting. We could use our grab brush, and just grab big chunks of this and do anything we needed to make it look however we wanted it to look. But the cool thing is that these are still separate objects. So say if we ever wanted to, make changes with this, we could do that very easily. But you're not going to be able to kind of like blend this hard edge unless you join the objects together. So notice that, we have a separate cube and a separate Suzanne. So if I hold shift and kind of try and smooth this out, notice it's not doing anything to Suzanne because it doesn't see it as the same mesh. So, there's kind of a few different ways you can use remesh. You can use it just to make a new skin. You can do it for separate objects that, you may want to keep separate. Like if it was a hat, you could always move this around and place it. And then, add your Booleans at a later time, right before you're going to 3D print. But another way you could do it is like, say we wanted this cube to actually become part of this mesh. How would we do that? So we could go to object mode and just click on this first object, the hat we could call it, or the cube, shift click on Suzanne, and then if you right click, you can do join with Control J. And notice what happens in our layers here. If we do Control J to join, we have one object and it is now combined into this area here. And so notice that the geometry looks terrible. It's like all, it's not really like lining up. There's a bunch of mismatch angles, and that's where the remesh would come into play to try and help you kind of smooth that little area out. So now we have one object of both of these that are joined together, and we can do Control Tab down. And now if we went to sculpt, it would be a little bit better, but it still thinks of this as two kind of separate pieces, even though they are in the same object. So this is another reason why, I don't like to use remesh too much. It's a little complicated, but, say if we wanted to remesh this at 0.5, we can just do remesh and watch what happens to our little hat area here. We can remesh and looky there. So now the remesh option has tried to blend this in. So now we could go in, hold shift and smooth that area out because they are in fact one and the same mesh. They have been joined and remeshed together. So that's kind of different ways you can use the remesh. And, I don't highly recommend it, but I just want you to know that you can use it on simple shapes and to create new skins for objects and to, keep objects separate or keep them, blend them together, whatever you're trying to accomplish. Yeah, we will use that from time to time, but not too often. So that is the remesh tool. Again, you can use it down here if you want. And, the lower the number here, like 0.1, is going to take way longer than if you had like 0.5 or 1 or 0.75. But you're also going to lose your quality here. So that is just the basics of the remesh. And like I said, we're going to go more into this over the course of making more designs, but that is the remesh.